at the front. Tires changes being complete. Fueling process there. Now we see Tom Wirtz make the change on the front wing. Waiting to come off the jacks. Mansell's gone. 16.4 seconds.
Boy, that's incredible to watch, though. They make the changes in the front. New Wickerbill in the back. Jackaroo.
And Emerson Fittipaldi has just completed his pit stop. And, well, interestingly enough, they made no changes. So obviously what we heard earlier in the report is exactly what's occurring. He's waiting, and he'll strike later.
And the car must be working fairly well because it's keeping him up to the front of the order. He stopped along with the leader on lap 31, the leader at that time being Nigel Mansell. As now the rest of the teams all beginning to make their stops.
Now, just so everybody knows what Nigel wanted right there in the middle of our screen, the number 5 car during his pit stop, he wanted more aerodynamic downforce. He wanted the wind to push his car into the track harder. So they put a bigger Wickerbill on the back of the wing, which makes the wing work harder, and they put a full turn in the front wings. Now, his front wings consist of 3 different wings comprising his front wing, a real new leading edge on it, a middle one, and a back. They adjusted the backup on the wing.
And Bobby, of course, the sacrifice there is in top speed. It'll cut his top speed by a little bit.
Yes, Sam, but if he gets through the turns faster, remember, he'll go down the straightaways faster. So, in fact, right now, his top speed will increase instead of decrease because he'll use more throttle and come off the turns faster.
So as the leaders make their stops, Paul Tracy regains the lead. The first set of stops made between lap 30 and lap 32. So fuel not an issue at the moment as we continue with the run in Cleveland. Back in Cleveland, the Grand Prix presented by Goodyear. Paul Tracy still the leader, Nigel Mansell second. With the stops being run, Robbie Gordon ran up to third there for a bit. We'll keep an eye on the rest of the field. Some of the cars taking their stops just a little bit further.
Paul, this is very much the look of IndyCar racing this year. Paul Tracy leading the race. We've watched this more than anything else. Coming into this race, he led 314 laps to Emerson Fittipaldi's 141, more than twice as many.
Well, look at Paul Tracy. He pitched the back end through that one bumpy section. 2 stop-and-go penalties have been assessed by the officials. One to Stefan Johansson because of speed limit violation in the pits. The same to Danny Sullivan. That's not making the officials popular with the drivers, but then again, I don't guess that's their job.
Well, it never is. It never works out that way. Sometimes the officials are right. Right now, it would appear when they come in the pits, they're going awfully slow. And 80 miles an hour to an Indy car that runs 230 miles an hour is pretty slow. And they have brakes, Paul. They're stopping faster than you can imagine. So I would think that the 80 mile an hour speed limit seems quite slow to the driver. That's not even a fast first gear speed.
Well, Paul Tracy, the leader of the race, and with the stops, he pulled out 11 seconds over second place Nigel Mansell. Back at Portland 2 weeks ago, he took third place. Does he enter this race thinking more in terms of winning than in terms of finishing?
Right now, I'm thinking more in terms of finishing because I want to try to pull up in the points. My goal right now is different from my goal at the start of the year. Now I'm 7th in the points, and I'd like to try to pull up into the top 3. And the only way I'm going to do that is finishing the races. And right now, leading into the race in Toronto, my hometown, I'd like to try to get out of here with a good finish in the top 3, and then I'd like to really put an effort in and try to win in Toronto.
Well, his effort today is spectacular. Leading the rest of the field, jumping out well in front, the team giving him a good placement on his pit stop, and Paul Tracy leads Mansell now by about 11 seconds. Fittipaldi in third. Teo Fabi moved up to fourth with the pit stops. Mario Andretti is fifth. Robbie Gordon is now sixth after he came up to third, made his pit stop, and then dropped back. Danny Sullivan is seventh. And now Al Unser Jr. runs in eighth. There's the 50 car slowing on the track. That, of course, is Christian Danner, who is driving for Antonio Ferrari in Euro Motorsports.
The interesting question, of course, will the changes Mansell made to his car help him to counterattack Paul Tracy? Right now, Mansell, if the race were to end, Mansell would still lead the championship, 104 points. Emerson Fittipaldi would be second with 86. Boesel third, Mario fourth, and Tracy fifth with 62. So he is starting to help himself and become at least a shadowy figure in the championship.
You look at Mario Andretti is battling with Robbie Gordon now. It is a fight for fifth place. They're side by side at this point and threading their way through traffic. Robbie Gordon trying to push Mario as fast and hard as he can. Now Gordon moves to the inside, but then Mario on the entry to the corner gets a little better entry and gets past Gordon, but Gordon is still right there. Danny Sullivan, by the way, also in this fight, runs one car back. You're on board with Danny.
Boy, that's a good battle right there. You watch it. Mario just drove it in there a little bit deeper. Gordon didn't know how far he would drive it, but Mario's in a bad position. Paulie's on the outside, and he just didn't let off the gas for a while.
And remember, Sullivan is mad right now. He was penalized. He came in. He at least shook his fist at the officials while he was being held there, so he's driving with real vigor.
I don't think Danny understood the length that they are making the stop and goes here because, as was explained earlier, the fact that you could actually get a stop and go penalty here and gain an advantage because of the entrance into the pits. Mario Andretti holding off the youth of Robbie Gordon in the heat here at Cleveland.
And the other car in the mix there, Kevin Cogan in the blue and white car. Cogan having his troubles. Of course, he was injured at Indianapolis a couple of years ago. He came back with his drive at Portland last week, but he's still not 100% fit.
Yeah, this is only his second drive back on a road course since his injuries at Indianapolis. He is running back in 15th place and wisely moves aside and lets Danny Sullivan come to the inside along with the rest of the battle. Front of the field remains the same. Tracy leading Mansell by 11 seconds. Fittipaldi runs in third. This battle continues, the only fight on the course. As Al Unser Jr. now tries to close in on it as well, but he's nearly the halfway point here in the run at Cleveland. We'll be back.
In IndyCar racing in the past, a driver only had a few gauges in the cockpit to keep track of what was happening with the car mechanically. But now, through a new system designed by PI Research, the modern-day IndyCar has an LCD display that'll show the driver whatever information is necessary. Here in the center, you've got the tachometer or rev counter. You can see the revs go down, and then the revs go back up. Now, all these other areas, you can program in whatever the driver requires. In this particular case, we've got water temperature, oil temperature, lap time or lap speed, oil pressure, and then new for this year would be an actual speedometer. Drivers are requesting a speedometer not to find out how fast they're going out on the racetrack, but how fast they are coming into the pits, because now there's a speed limit restriction for the first time in IndyCar racing. Now, you have all that to look at, but let's say the water temperature were to go too high. The whole screen would actually flash warning so the driver knows there's a problem. So yes, you have a lot more to look at, but with proper programming, you can actually save a lot of effort on the driver because you can keep your eyes on the road instead of looking at the dash.
Presented by Goodyear as we watch a battle in the family, the Gallus team, Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. as they battle for 6th place. Robbie Gordon's not there, and this is why. Matter of fact, he got the back end loose on one point coming off the first turn, and then just a few corners later was off in the grass, and that took him out of the battle.
Kid did a good job, though. He put the clutch in, kept the engine running. Now, that shows that a driver's thinking while he's going through some bad times. Another nice thing is this track, being as nice as it is, as wide, just think he went off there without having a wreck ball.
Boy, talk about different lines into the corners as Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. battled, and Al Unser Jr. took the line to the inside, gave the line away. Danny Sullivan totally gave the line away by trying to move to the outside, but both of them apparently thought it was a maneuver that would work.
And just remember Detroit just a few weeks ago. It was these two men who battled for the lead right at the end.
They touch again.
I can't believe it.
These are the things that Rick Gallus always is upset about, is when his two cars get together. Now, in this particular case, these two drivers have been going hot and heavy, really the hardest battle most of the day, and they're the team cars.
Matter of fact, the past couple of weeks, apparently not a whole lot of communication between Little Al and Danny. They supposedly got talking again this last week. Not so sure this is going to help.
Now, it was Danny that hit Little Al in that particular case, but notice that Little Al was able to get his clutch in and keep the engine running. Danny right there, of course, lost his engine or killed his engine, and that really cost the guy a lot right there.
How do you call that one, Bobby?
Well, it's Little Al heading for the turn, and Danny wasn't far enough up underneath him, so it would have to be Danny's fault. He just didn't have what I call enough bite on Little Al to let him go by yet.
So the yellow flags fly in this section of the course. Danny Sullivan stays with the car. We can take a look at this in slow motion. Let's look again. Danny Sullivan, you say not up, tight enough. And Little Al just slams the door on him, takes away the right front nose wheel.
On the other hand,
he didn't really slam the door, Sam and Paul, but what happened, the camera angle showed that Danny was ahead, but if you looked at an overhead shot, you'd see Little Al was ahead. Danny was trying a pass, but he wasn't far enough up on Little Al. Little Al just took a normal line into the turn.
Bobby, on the other hand, a very wide track, of course. Two teammates battling like that, you think it would have been appropriate, let's put it that way, for Little Al to leave some room. As it is, the risk was both cars out of the race.
Sam, you can't leave any room. The guys can go out as wide as they want in the turns, but you have to go all the way down. If you notice, every one of the cars always goes to the grass. They have to hit the apex, or they're just not going to go fast.
But Al Unser Jr. was able to keep it going and continues in the fight. Here's Danny's view of the same thing, Bobby.
Now here's Danny coming out. Little Al's on the right. As you can see, Danny is nowhere near. Right there's an overhead shot. He was only had his front tire up and Little Al's rear tire in that shot. That isn't far enough to make a pass.
This can only exacerbate the tension on that team because there's just no question about this. It's a very tough call here.
Take a look at the replay again.
Here comes Sullivan on the left. Now watch out. He keeps the clutch in and does not stall the engine. Gets it in gear and drives away. He's in 7th place currently after that contretemps.
And ironically, Sam and Paul, that's one of the best jobs that he's done today is not knowing that he's going to be hit from behind and being able to get the clutch in. I don't like to sit and brag about my nephew, but that's the best job he's done all day, in my opinion.
Let me hear that again. You don't like to sit and brag about your nephew. Put that one in the record books. Paul Tracy is the leader. 10 seconds back now is Nigel Mansell. Fittipaldi is still third. Teo Fabi runs in fourth. Mario Andretti is fifth. Then Raul Boesel. And then with the battle that we've just been witnessing, Al Unser Jr. now runs in seventh, followed by Stefan Johansson, Brian Till, and Robbie Gordon.
And that cone that the people see on TV, it's laying out in the middle of the racetrack, is rubber. It will be picked up at the soonest time if they have a yellow down there, but it would be no harm to the cars in most cases if somebody were to hit it.
Actually been laying out there quite a few laps.
The drivers are going around it, but it doesn't make a lot of difference if they hit it.
Boy, what a terrific overhead shot. It shows the width of the runway. You see here they're on the eastern end of the track now, turning back, turning west with the city up at the top of the screen. You'll see it in just a moment. The city of Cleveland, there it is, downtown. Beautiful Cleveland, much improved over the city of 10, 15 years ago.
And they're certainly going down these runways faster than the airplanes land and take off, Sam.
Well, Learjet, takes off about 160 miles an hour. They're well above that speed. As a matter of fact, those helicopter shots, the helicopter's got a pretty good clip going to it. Bell Jet Ranger, and it can't catch them.
We're starting to see something develop. You see Scott Goodyear there on the right, but as Paul Tracy moves by him, we're going to see Raul Boesel off to the right, just ahead. And this is a championship situation. There's
Al didn't come in after that spin, and apparently it's cost him as he limps back to the pits now.